So this is about Pyramid Secrets Decoded. So the Great Pyramid is encoded with advanced knowledge. The Great Pyramid at Giza is just one of many on the planet, obviously. This one in particular, because we've been able to access it, we've been able to analyze it, we've been able to scan it. We've done CAT scans, muon scans, ground penetrating radar scans. We've been inside of it. We've been on top of it. We've looked at this thing from every angle. So we've got a lot of data on the Great Pyramid. The more I analyzed it, the more I realized it was most likely a multifunctional stone computer and a device that potentially generated wireless electricity. We look at Thoth. I always go to the ancients because they're the ones that are leaving these cookie crumbs for us. And so Thoth, the Atlantean, in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he says, "Builded I the Great Pyramid, patterned after the pyramid of Earth's force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it, I builded my knowledge of magic science." Magic science translates into modern terms into advanced technology. "So that it might be here when I again return from Amenti. While I sleep in the halls of Amenti," which they found underneath the Great Pyramid, they found all of these hundreds of arched hallways underneath the Great Pyramid, extending out 1 mile underneath the Giza Plateau, just about 3 years ago. "My soul, roaming free, will incarnate, dwell amongst men in this form or another." So he's talking about the fact that he has the capability of transferring his consciousness into other avatar bodies to walk amongst men, but unlike a man. These beings were so technologically advanced, they can walk among us, looking like us, made from a cloned avatar body, and you'd never know that they'd be standing directly next to you. So here I am at the Great Pyramid at Giza, and I'm inside of the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, analyzing this stone box. This stone box, which they are mainstream is trying to say is a sarcophagus, in my personal opinion, it just can't be a sarcophagus. I've seen sarcophagi. I've been to the Valley of the Pharaohs and I've gone inside of tombs and I've seen all of the sarcophagus in there and looked at them, analyzed them, touched them, and they're massive, super massive. It's really a mystery how they got those things down there, Valley of the Kings. But, inside of here, you can see, I'm 6'4". I'm about 205 pounds, to give you an idea of my height and my weight, standing next to this stone box that's inside the Great Pyramid. And so you get an idea that even with me laying flat on my back inside this box, my knees would be slightly bent, just a little slight bent. I couldn't really fully extend my legs all the way out. With that being said, knowing that, the sarcophagi usually weigh, 2 or 3 tons or more. And now I'm standing next to a box of stone, which is hollow in the middle and, could weigh maybe just a few hundred pounds, maybe 1,000 at the most. It doesn't make any sense that it would be a burial place. There's nothing there to say that this is a burial place. Now, what's really interesting about this, the dimensions of this box, the actual dimensions perfectly match the dimensions of the Ark of the Covenant. In other words, if you were to take a measuring tape and measure the inside lining of that box, you can actually fit the Ark of the Covenant right inside. And so I started really looking into that and wondering, could this be where the Ark of the Covenant, or at least one of them, because there were multiple Arks of the Covenant, if you didn't know, could it be that they left the Ark of the Covenant in this box? I've also been really looking into the fact that Akhenaten may have been the Moses of the Bible. And the reason why he was being ousted from Egypt was not purely because of the way a lot of the biblical stories had gone. I think it was because he was ushering in monotheism into Egypt. He was bringing in the one God system, the one God mindset, and he was getting all that information directly from Amen-Ra, also known as Aten, the sun disk. And Amen-Ra had him going around defacing all the faces of the gods and the Natural and all the glyphs all around Egypt and any other area they ruled, tearing the faces and the ears and the faces and the noses off the statues as far and wide as they can find them and tear them apart, because he said there will be no other God but me. That was the sun god. And so Akhenaten was doing this, and eventually the Egyptians got a little ticked off and they were like, you know what? This guy's erasing all of our history. We got to get rid of him. And I really do believe that he orchestrated a theft of the Ark of the Covenant from this box that I'm standing next to inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, because it was a source of power. and he took that along with his followers of the new monotheistic religion out into the desert with him. And this is most likely why the Pharaoh chased him, because he took the source of the pyramid's power. I think that the Great Pyramid was generating power without the Ark many millennia prior. But because the actual pyramid itself, in some weird way and some mechanism had broken, the Ark of the Covenant fulfilled that last piece of the power generating source to send that beam up through the apex, which then would be carried wirelessly by the obelisks. But I think that's what happened. And of course, another thing that they don't really tell you is that the Red Sea is not the sea that was crossed. It was the Sea of Reeds. That's a mistranslation in the modern day Bible, which is a much smaller, much easier sea to cross. But I really do believe that's what that box is for, which is why I really want to show it. Now, another thing about this box, it's in the King's Chamber, which is right above the Grand Gallery. So to get to this King's Chamber, you have to kind of, well, I have to really stoop low and kind of crawl up this, probably like a 60-degree angle gallery to get up into the King's Chamber. But what's interesting is the degrees of the actual Grand Gallery itself leading up are 29.9792458 degrees north. Now, what's interesting is the speed of light in meters per second is 299,792,458 meters per second. So you see the numbers match. So the speed of light in the vacuum in meters per second perfectly match the actual location of the Grand Gallery. Now that's pretty interesting. And you're saying, people say, well, no, it can't be. It's just a coincidence because meters, the metric system didn't exist. Not actually. So we know this is the speed of light in the vacuum, right? And this is the Grand Gallery I'm looking at right here on the right-hand side. Give you a kind of a bird's eye view of what it looks like to get up into the King's Chamber and get back down to the level that can even take you further down into the Queen's Chamber, which is below, okay? But let's analyze this. Well, I discovered that the proto-cuneiform tablets and mathematics system that was discovered, believe it or not, in Mesoamerica, of all places. What are Sumerian proto-cuneiform writings found in Mesoamerica? But they found them. And guess what? They actually depict a proto-metric system, which would date back 8,000 to 10,000 years. So we're talking about a proto-cuneiform mathematical system that's also proto-metric. So the metric system definitely was not just something that we recently discovered or created. That's actually just a rediscovery of something that already existed. We always come back to the same old story. A lot of the stuff that we are learning now and inventing today, we're just rediscovering things that already existed. We may have a different twist on it or different take on it. We may tweak it here or tweak it there. But overall, in my personal opinion, after now researching these topics and going through over 1,000 cylinder scrolls, scriptures, cuneiform tablets, papyruses, you name it, books, to me, as far as I can see now, the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, all these ancient texts, the Code of Hammurabi, we're talking about a very sophisticated ancient culture that visited this planet and really endowed mankind with a lot of the things that we are just now rediscovering. So one of the most amazing anomalies is right here on Earth, the embedded constants in the Great Pyramid. The tropical year or the calendar year can actually be calculated from the structure itself. So you take the length of a base side, which is 9,131 pyramid inches, measured at the mean socket level, or 365.24 pyramid cubits, which is the number of the days in the year. Okay, they really encoded everything about our cycles, our days, our months, our years directly into the actual building of the structure itself. The perimeter of the base divided by 100 equals 365.24, the number of days in a year. It's really incredible for them to have that advanced foreknowledge to construct something that had to be built at speed, that had to be built with these megalithic blocks, and at the same time still the agenda initially going in. This takes foreplanning. You have to plan to do these kind of things. You can't go, yeah, while we started building, you know what, let's add the days of the year to this structure. So before the structure was even started on construction, before the first hole was dug, before the first brick was created or quarried, all the things that they wanted to endow into the structure were pre-thought. And then from there, the master architect had to find a way to take all this data and put it all into the structure in terms of the architectural plans before it was actually built. That's incredible. Now, the tropical year can be calculated. The length of the antechamber used as a diameter of a circle produces a circumference of 365.242, accurate to within 6 digits of the tropical year. The tropical year can also be calculated by the ratio of the length of the grand gallery to the solid diagonal of the king's chamber times 100 equals the number of days in a tropical year. You know, accurate to within 8 digits. Again, in the sidereal year, the length of the antechamber of the king's chamber times pi equals the length of a sidereal year. Accurate again to within only 8 digits. This takes really, really advanced foreknowledge. It takes at first, because the reason why is because you need to know these statistics. You need to know the calculations of these years and these months and that you want to put into the structure. So you have to have the foreknowledge of that. And then you have to say, okay, now let's make this list of all the things we want to add into the structure. We want to encode the structure with this information for somebody to discover it, because there's no other real reason to put it there other than for it to be a beacon for us right now in this current era. You can also calculate the mean distance to the sun by taking half of the length of the diagonal of the base times 10 to the 6th power equals the average distance to the sun. Now, let me ask you a question. How did they know the distance to the sun? That would be 1 AU, 1 astronomical unit. The distance from the Earth to the sun is 1 AU in astrophysics. How did they know this? I can calculate the circumference of the Earth or the curvature of the Earth with 2 sticks. That's pretty easy to do. I can take a stick and put it in the ground here, 3-foot stick here. I can have my friend go 3 miles away, put a stick in the ground at the same time of day, and I can call my friend and say, hey, measure the angle of the shadow, and I'm going to measure the angle of my shadow right now. And I could take the angle of those shadows, and I can calculate the actual spherical the size of the Earth to within maybe just a few inches or so. Okay, not too hard to do. But you can't just look at the sun and go, oh, it's going to be X amount of distance away from the Earth. You have to have advanced knowledge. You would have had to actually known the distance from the Earth to the sun prior to building the structure. And how did they get that information? That's the big question mark. The mean distance to the sun, the height of the pyramid times 10 to the 9th power represents the mean radius of the Earth's orbit around the sun, or astronomical unit, AU. So we can also calculate the actual orbit of the Earth around the sun via the Great Pyramid measurements. The mean distance to the moon can be calculated. The length of the Jubilee passage times 7 to the 10th to the 7th is the mean distance to the moon. And again, that's calculating a distance of 238,865 miles. Something you can't just do with the naked eye. This means you had a sophisticated piece of technology. They was able to measure the distance from the Earth to the moon, or maybe if you came in from the outside, from the moon to the Earth, but you would actually need to know this information, which means you would need technology to know this information, or somebody would need to bring this knowledge to you from somewhere else, somebody who had the technology, who had the means to actually do it. You can calculate the sun's radius from the Great Pyramid. Twice the perimeter of the bottom of the granite coffer times 10 to the 8th is the sun's mean radius. Okay, so that's incredible. 10 to the 8th equals 427,316 miles. So we know that the radius of the sun is 427,316 miles. And how do we know that? Because it's encoded into the Great Pyramid. But how do we know it before the pyramid? Because we have technology. We have satellites in space. We have the capability of scanning this, taking a look at the sun, scanning it with our digital equipment, and then having a computer. We have the luxury of having a computer calculate the radius. But how did they do that in ancient times? How in the world did they do it? Now, in my opinion, this Great Pyramid wasn't built 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15,000 years ago. In my opinion, it was built between 36,000 to 45,000 years ago. Two processional periods back. And if I'm right, We're talking about pre-dynastic era. We're talking about the land of Chem, long before this structure resided in a place now called Egypt. Back then it was called the land of Chem, which is where you get the word chemistry and alchemy from. All right. You can also calculate Earth's polar radius. That's calculating the radius going this way from top to the bottom, the polar radius. Something we couldn't do really until not too long ago, actually. But the sacred cubit times 10 to the 7 equals the polar radius of the Earth, which is the distance from the North Pole to Earth's center. 25 pyramid inches times 10 to the 7. We're talking about 3,950 miles we're calculating, and we're talking about doing that all based off of the sacred cubit. Again, a really advanced foreknowledge has to be established to be able to do these calculations. In Earth's polar radius, the pyramid embodies a scale ratio of 1 to 43,200 of the Earth's size. So the pyramid itself is actually a scaled down version of the planet Earth. If you were to draw a sphere around the actual pyramid, you have a scale of 1 by 43,200 of the actual Earth size. Again, incredible. So again, you have to know the exact size of the Earth, and then you have to make your scale 1 by 43,000. I mean, that's just incredible, which is a distance of 3,938.68 miles, which is the polar radius of the Earth to within 11 miles. These are some amazing mathematical calculations that I was able to discover in the Great Pyramid. There's just a list of other constants. I would be on here literally. There just wasn't enough time today to go into everything I really wanted to dig into, because that would be like a 4 or 5 hour presentation, but I'm going to go over a little bit more. The Great Pyramid of Giza is highly intelligently designed and clearly demonstrates that the builders possess highly advanced geodetic, astronomical, and astrophysical knowledge, well beyond what has been taught in advanced mathematics, including Newtonian mathematics. And the following is a list of conclusions drawn from the analysis of the relationship of dimensions found within the Great Pyramid. A precise definition of the royal cubit as it relates to the Earth, the size and shape of the Earth, the mass and density of the Earth, the gravitational constant, the escape velocity from Earth to obtain an open orbit can be calculated from the Great Pyramid. This is one thing. I'm going to stop right here for 1 second. A lot of people don't understand what the Freemasonry is all about. They got all these weird ideas about the true purpose, the final agenda, the top agenda of Freemasonry is space travel. Why? Because you have to travel 33 times the speed of sound to break Earth's orbit. To leave out into space requires that speed velocity. And that's why the only runway for launching a rocket for NASA, for example, in Florida is pad 33. But the true secret behind Freemasonry is all about space travel. It's about obtaining or reobtaining what they believe is their birthright, the ability to access space. And so 33 is the number chosen because that's the required speed you need, 33 times the speed of sound to break Earth's gravity. That's what it's really all about. The escape velocity from Earth to obtain escape from the combined Earth and Sun's gravitational field, the significance of the location of the Great Pyramid, the golden ratio and the mass of the Sun, the mass of the Moon can be calculated, the mean distance to the Sun and the circumference of Earth's orbit, the neutral points of gravity between the Earth and the Sun, where NASA has now discovered X points exist. So NASA discovered between those points, there's something called X points. And these X points are actually portals that open up and close from time to time on a daily basis and open up direct openings that will take you from the Earth to the Moon or from the Earth even directly to the Sun. And portals, they discovered the portals there. It's incredible. The mean distance to the Moon, the orbital velocity of the Earth, and we can calculate how the speed of the Earth orbiting around the actual Sun, the orbital velocity of the Moon, the metatonic 19-year cycle of the Moon's orbit of the Earth, the Lagrange point between the Earth and the Moon. We can also calculate the speed of light through the Great Pyramid, the orbital velocity of the solar system, and relative to the center of the Milky Way galaxy. So our solar system is moving on that arm in the outer reaches of the Milky Way, and that arm is actually orbiting the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy, the Milky Way. And the Great Pyramid has the calculations built in it to calculate how fast we are moving along that arm as we orbit the black hole itself. Okay, let that marinate for a minute. The velocity of the local group of galaxies, which include the Milky Way galaxy, relative to the universe. So we know the speed that all galaxies are expanding and moving away and colliding into each other based off the calculations, all encoded into the Great Pyramid. So you see, the Great Pyramid is not just this gigantic structure sitting out in the middle of this desert. It's actually a beacon of information that was sent from the past. It's a time capsule that was put there to function as it needed to do in real time at that era. But in this time, it's now a time capsule for us. It is a structure that is encoded with so much information, wisdom, and knowledge. And this day, today, we are the children under this current sun that have been blessed to be able to decipher this knowledge, this wisdom, this information, and find out how we can actually apply it to our current everyday lives. From what I've seen so far with the Great Pyramid and this wisdom and knowledge that have been left behind, it's given me a clue as to where humanity is going and will go. It's a little bit of foreshadowing into a future that we all have, a future which really is our birthright. Our birthright is to basically travel the stars, to gain back what was taken away, or what we fell from and lost. Is to become a spacefaring race once again, and to be able to reach out to the stars, and to be able to see ourselves and our fellow humans in a totally different way. That there is no separation. That separation is actually an illusion. That we all literally are one. So it's really amazing. The solar equatorial parallax is 8.9008091 seconds of arc. Okay. Now, using 91,848. 817 miles as the mean distance to the sun, and 3,963.4914 miles as the equatorial radius, the distance between the mean socket level and the height of the leveled bedrock is 8.9008. And the parallax is 8.9008091. This is no mistake. You can actually calculate, the base of the pyramid calculates the solar equatorial parallax. That's incredible. This is incredible science and astrophysics encoded into the Great Pyramid. Also, that these glyphs also exist all over Egypt and many other places, and they were never touched as well. So it wasn't this accidental etching that created these images. These things that appear to be what we would call advanced technology existed in the ancient past, or either the person that did this work had foreknowledge of this technology, or was given a vision, or saw it in some way, shape, or form. They were trying to represent something that either existed or something that they knew would exist. I can't say exactly what it would be because obviously I was not there, but the homegrown guides will tell you that these glyphs, nobody's ever gone up, nobody's ever edited these things. They are the same. They are exactly what you see, what was there thousands of years ago. And like I said, they proceeded to show me many of these similar glyphs all around Egypt. I spent some time there, quite a bit of time, going to every single temple, every ancient site, every pyramid that I can get access to. Some you couldn't get access to. I spent time with pyramid priests. I spent time meditating in the Holy of Holies. I did a lot of things that a lot of people would never get a chance to do. Fortunately for me, I was blessed to be able to do that in Egypt. Cairo, it represents this place called Sidonia. And on Mars is a place called Sidonia on Mars. And so it's really interesting that the ancient name for Cairo is Sidonia, and that it really means Mars. It's a location on Mars, a specific location. And why would I show you this Avebury, UK ordnance map? What you're looking at now on your screen is an ordnance map of Avebury in the UK. And the reason why I'm showing this to you is because there's a place on Mars called Sidonia, which perfectly aligns with this Avebury, UK ordnance map, modern ordnance map. In other words, the anomalies or the mounds that are built there artificially on Avebury in the UK, very, very long time ago, hundreds of years ago, perfectly match these structures that were discovered at Sidonia on Mars. Okay. And when you merge the two together, when you take the when you take Sidonia and overlay it as a transparency over, or take the ordnance map, I'm sorry, as a transparency and overlay it over Sidonia, all the major anomalies perfectly align with the artificial anomalies here on Earth. How could that be? How hundreds of years ago could people in Avebury know to build these mounds and move literally millions of tons of dirt to create these artificial mounds and these walkways and these pathways that perfectly match that of the the ones that were discovered on Sidonia in the NASA image? Pretty interesting. So there is an ancient lost history. There's an advanced knowledge that has been lost. We really truly are trying to find our way back. We are really trying to reobtain what was lost in the last cataclysm / suppression tactic, or maybe a combination of both. But we have some way to go. And what I have found is that, walking is a controlled series of falls. When you walk, that's what it is. When you're walking, you're actually falling. It's a controlled fall when you walk. And mankind is trying to learn how to walk. And learning this information from the ancient past, how it ties into the ancient alien theory, how it ties into, the theory that the advanced beings visited this planet and endowed us with knowledge and information, and that we learned from them, and that we had risen to a high state and a level of technology and maybe even consciousness in the ancient past, and had fallen, and now trying to get back there. It's important to understand those things so we can figure out how we can get back to that golden age. How can we obtain a new golden age and maybe even sustain it this time? And so that's why I think the past is prologue. And so it's good for us to know and learn and understand all the little secrets that were left behind for us right now. We are the children under the new sun that this information was meant for. And it's important for us to learn this because we need to learn how to walk. And so because we're learning how to walk, we are going to fall from time to time, just like a new baby when he's or she's taking her first step or he's taking his first steps. After third or fourth step, looks all good, then boom, falls down. But what happens? The baby brain calibrates and calculates what moves and adjustments and balance is needed to avoid that fall. And so then the baby moves and walks a few more steps, falls again. These are the times where people think that the world is going to end and everything is over and it's the end of everything. In actuality, it's just that things are becoming more obvious and we're in the process of learning to walk so that eventually one day we can run. It's a process of taking a few steps and falling, eventually our gait will be stable and we'll have a stable walking gait. And then eventually we'll start trotting and jogging and then we will start running. I guarantee it. We have to go to the Great Pyramid soon. And the reason why is because NASA has taken over control of the entrance to the Great Pyramid. What? Yeah, NASA. They've taken over a lot of ancient sites, the sacred sites. They've taken over, even down in Peru, they've taken over a couple of sites. They've taken over the Grand Canyon access in certain areas. They have literally control of those areas now. And they were saying that soon people won't be able to climb up into the King's Chamber. So, and the reason why is because they're claiming that the Great Pyramid is sinking. Okay, that's the best you guys got? The real reason is because they've discovered everything that I was talking about earlier. All those mathematical computations. Can you imagine what they're doing with their supercomputers and all their geniuses that they've got working around the clock on this stuff? They found some things out and they want access, they want control of it. They're probably realizing that according to these ancient tablets, the Great Pyramid also was a portal generator. It used to generate portals. Down in the halls of Amenti, Thoth would appear and disappear. It wasn't magic. He was walking through a portal. I went to his house where in Teotihuacan. It's still there in the Teotihuacan complex. And it's the house of Kukulkan, who's also Thoth the Atlantean. And to be actually in the actual wall structure, the house where he actually lived for a period of time, even if it was just on vacation, was absolutely amazing. The pyramid of the moon was dedicated to his wife, and the pyramid of the moon is actually 8 pyramids stacked on top of each other. It's an amazing structure. The The pyramid of the sun, that's there, which is the larger one, it's exactly 50% the height of the Great Pyramid in Giza. So exactly, and the base is identical to the size of the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And both pyramids are built on top of aquifers, which means that the pyramid of the sun in Teotihuacan was a power generator. It generated physiostatic electricity, which resonated up into most likely a chamber, which was then emitted through the apex and picked up by other technological devices. They also discovered tons of mercury underneath the pyramid of the sun. Mercury, which we talked about earlier, was a technological ferrofluid that can be used for anti-gravity purposes. Another thing that was incredible at the Teotihuacan complex, which is kind of unique to the other ones that I've been to, is that all those pyramids are connected by an underground tunnel system, which is in the shape of a perfect box, and it connects all those little sites together. But what's amazing about it is that it's lined with mica. Mica is an insulation, it's used for insulation. And mica had to be mined from several hundred miles away and brought to that site. And they brought tons of it there to line these underground tunnels with it. Why? Why would they put mica in a tunnel that's perfectly formed and shaped to be like a conduit? Because energy was flowing through this circuit. A gigantic circuit on Earth. It's a gigantic computer chip. And if you look at Teotihuacan from above, looking down, and compare it to a modern-day computer chip, that's what you're going to see. It was so funny. I went to Chichen Itza to do a tour for my third time in my life. And the tour guide holds up this photo, and it's got the alignment of the pyramids from China, from Teotihuacan and from Giza, all aligned with the Orion and everything else, blah, blah, blah. Well, this configuration is in alignment with the Orion star system, which to me says a couple things. The first thing that says the reason why so many of these pyramid plateaus are aligned there is telling me that they're saying, hey guys, this is probably where we're from or our relatives are from, number one. Number two, I think that it's also incredible that these pyramid structures are capable of generating frequencies on the hydrogen frequency, frequencies on hydrogen level. And hydrogen is the most widely used frequency in the universe. And when we scan for life on other planets and other worlds, we use the frequency of hydrogen. And I believe that they're using those shafts that come out of these pyramids and send these frequencies directly to those star systems. I believe that they're using them as a communications device to send information back and forth between interstellar planets. That's what I believe. I believe that they're sending back and forth information. Even the Anunnaki would send information on something called the Tablets of Destiny. And these tablets were called crystal tablets. I liken them to like an iPad type of a system. And on these tablets would be information about star systems, distance to their planet, scanning other planets on our planet for resources. They even scanned the moon one time. And Alalu transmitted his location and the amount of gold he discovered back to his home planet with a tablet of destiny. So they had the capability, and I think this is just part of a gigantic stone communications device, as well as these pads here, these structures that are all around here. Where are they? Oh, these right here, these little dots. They're massive, by the way. They're not just small. When you're standing, you have to climb up a lot of steps to get to the top. Very steep steps, but they're reminiscent of a rocket launch pad, all of them. You got to go to Teotihuacan. You just have to go there. It's an incredible place. And you can climb the pyramids still currently. You can't get to the top of the pyramid of the moon. You can get almost to the top, but not quite to the top. Why is it set up like a computer circuit? Well, there could be a lot of reasons. These beings mastered the technique of utilizing existing resources on planets and moons and converting it and turning it into technology for other purposes that they needed, whether it was communication, whether it was power generation, whether it was stabilization, they had whatever idea you can come up with. These people already thought about it and figured it out, and they knew how to manipulate planetary systems. This is a high-level civilization. They literally, if you go around this planet and look at a lot of the mountains, you begin to see a lot of carved out faces, massive, massive faces. I have about 320 images that I'm going to be putting up, and I'm going to be doing a show here on Dame Dash Studios about these terraformed mountains that are in this world. And you're going to see some amazing content when I show you these images. It's going to blow you away. The Unagami Pyramid in Japan and the Devil's Triangle has a gigantic, massive alien face carved into it as well. So I'm going to be showcasing all these faces from all around the planet. Machu Picchu is actually a face looking up at the stars. A super massive face that converted a mountain, an entire mountain, into a face. I don't know if you guys realize what kind of technology that would take. This is a face looking up at the sky. You see the nose, the mouth, and the chin. This is a terraformed mountain. It's well known that it's been terraformed. Everybody, all the guys will tell you, yes, this is not a natural formation. It's been, created that way. It's been formed that way through terraforming. That's massive. When you can convert a mountain. I've been at the base of that mountain, and I said, no, I don't want to do it because it's so steep. This one is so steep. I mean, it's like climbing up, and if you don't get there early enough, you can't make it down back down before dark.
What is the link between Atlantis and the Anunnaki?
The Anunnaki are those who came from heaven to earth, and so Anunnaki is a generalized term. So, like, if we left Earth and went to Mars and we met some Martians, we would call ourselves Earthlings, right? We wouldn't say I'm a Floridian or somebody from British from London or England. We would say Earthling, a generalized term. The Atlantean were the beings that actually were really the Anunnaki. So it was Anunnaki, Atlanteans. They were one and the same.
Now, I'm wondering if there are any sacred texts. You're an expert in, obviously, the Book of Enoch, the Emerald Tablets. Do they support your Atlantean theory?
Absolutely. I mean, Atlantis is mentioned many, many times in a lot of ancient texts, especially the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which date back over 36,000 years. As a matter of fact, the Thoth, the Atlantean priest king of the land of Chem, who the Egyptians call Thoth, he's depicted with the ibis bird beak, which is really not his real face. It's just a symbology of him bringing darkness to light. But he calls himself the son of Atlantis. And so when he would appear to men in different regions of the world, and they would drop to their feet to worship him as a god because he comes on this flying dragon and he's got all this technology, they thought he was a god. And he would tell them, no, rise up, stand up. I am here because I'm a son of Atlantis. I'm here to bring you wisdom and knowledge.
I'm wondering what the correlation is between Thoth, the Atlantean civilization, all these megalithic sites that you have personally experienced.
Thoth covers all of this in the Emerald Tablets, right? And so the opening scene in the Emerald Tablets, he's told by his father, who's actually Ea Enki, also known as Thoth in the Emerald Tablets, to go to the land of Chem and help re-kickstart civilization because there was a great flood. Now, notice that one of the most important phrases is he wants them to bring civilization back to a high level, meaning it was already at a high level in the past, before the flood. And so they spread out around the planet Earth and they went and took capitals of Atlantis, a capital in this region, a capital in that region. So the ring city of Atlantis was just one capital of dozens of capitals that existed on Earth. That ring city was not Atlantis, that was just one capital. The entire planet was Atlantis.
Do you think it even extended beyond the planet into the galaxy?
It definitely extended beyond the planet because these beings came and went. And when you look into a lot of the space probe data that we have from the space agencies, you can see similarities and anomalies in space and on other planets like the Moon and Mars specifically, because we have the most data from there, that resemble ancient structures that we have in Peru and in Egypt, in Cambodia. And so all these similarities can't be coincidence. I believe that it was a interplanetary civilization, maybe even intergalactic. When I went to Sydney, Australia, and I went out into the bush at Carryong 9 with some Aboriginal elders to look for the proto-Egyptian hieroglyphs that were out there. We stumbled across them, we found them, documented them. It's a place called they call them the Gosford glyphs. They tell an incredible story, and they've been verified as proto-Egyptian hieroglyphs, authenticated, 5,000 years old. And so what's interesting about this site is you see that these, they had come all the way from Egypt to Australia to learn this information, to learn knowledge and wisdom from the Aboriginal elders. And the Aboriginal elders say that they were seated on this planet. Their handed down verbal history for thousands of years is that they were brought here and seated on this planet by Pleiadians. And they're saying that these beings came here and brought them here from the Pleiadian star system. When you dig into ancient texts, even deeper, like the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, you find out about these galactic wars that happened millions of years ago in the Pleiadian star system. Then you had this situation where planets were being destroyed. You had space refugees, people fleeing from that region or that sector of the galaxy and moving into this sector of the galaxy inhabiting different star systems, Orion, Sirius, Aldebaran, and all these other places. And some, Earth, creating a new breakaway civilization here, as well as a few other planets, one in the Inuit list called Nibiru, which orbits a brown dwarf star that orbits our sun. So it's pretty interesting that these beings, they had already obtained long time ago, maybe a million years ahead of us, intergalactic travel and interplanetary travel.
Was Atlantis once an abundance civilization?
Super abundant. It was a golden age. They had reached a golden age on this planet. They had developed this planet to the point, and also the moon, Mars, and other moons of other planets in this solar system. This whole solar system was experiencing a huge, high-tech golden age for a very long period of time before the fall, before deceit, greed, and all these dark, Thoth calls them the Dark Brothers. They returned on this cycle, and they came back and they started creating this downfall of the golden age, which caused the cycle to fall again. And so these Dark Brothers would show up at times in different civilizations. He even says he would travel to other worlds and watch civilizations rise and fall. So it's pretty amazing stuff.
Where do you think we are as humanity on the Earth plane in that cyclical range of the rising and falling of civilizations?
Well, if you look at the Yuga cycle, particularly like the Kali Yuga, I think that we're in the Tetra Yuga cycle right now, which is the beginning of a silver age. So we've already gone through the bronze and the gold, and we're heading up into the bronze, and the silver at the very beginning, and we're moving up towards a gold again. So we're at the very beginning of a silver age where we're in a very crucial place right now. We have the ability to ascend and accelerate that process back towards the golden age, or we can actually get stuck here for a while and actually move backwards a little bit. Now, the cycle always completes, but there's, it's an average amount of time, maybe 27 to 30,000 years, the cycle completes and goes back and forward. But right now, we're at a precipice as a species on this planet, and we have the potential to really excel towards that golden age. And one of the most amazing things and why I'm really involved in this work is because there is no text that I've ever read, and I've gone through 1,000 cylinder scrolls, scriptures, papyruses, everything you could think of, cylinder scrolls, and all these ancient texts and writing and traveled the world. Nowhere have I seen where it says a golden age has to fall. It talks about golden ages everywhere, high civilization, high golden ages, and extended periods, lifespans extended, and all these amazing things happening. But nowhere have I seen where it says it has to fall again. It just says that there are cycles, but nobody's talking about how do we end a cycle. So could this be one of the cycles that we not only achieve a golden age, but we also maintain it and sustain it? It's the ultimate goal.
One of the things that we know about Atlantis is the imbalance of technology versus spirituality, or the sacred masculine versus the sacred feminine. Yeah. And that could even relate to Lemuria and Mu. Mm-hmm. So what are your feelings around getting that balance right, and what can we learn from the Atlantic cataclysms now that we are at this precipice?
Right. It's so important for us to really look into the ancient past because the past is prologue. And so when we analyze what happened in the ancient past, we'll see that the Atlanteans didn't have the perfect balance. At some point, there was an imbalance between technology, knowledge, wisdom, and jealousy, and all the other dark things that roll back in and come along with that. I think that if we understand what happened then, we can change our future for where we're going. Right now, we're going back in a very masculine energy with unbalance. If you go to Egypt, for example, go to Cairo and just look around, you can see that the female energy has been completely suppressed. Everything is one color. There's no plants, no flowers. Everything is dirty. It looks like a giant bachelor pad. I'm just being honest. And so what does that mean? It means there's no feminine input. Now take that on the galactic scale. You see what I mean? We got a gigantic galaxy right now that is just teeming with life, but this sector that we're inhabiting right now, we're on a frequency doesn't have enough feminine energy, and the balance is off. Look at all the wars around the world. Who have initiated these wars? Men, primarily. So we have to find this balance and bring it back, because until we balance with the feminine energy and take away this male dominance mindset and this technocratic male dominance mindset and get the balance back with feminine energy, we're going to have a tough time getting back to a golden age. At some point, we have to honor that feminine energy and recognize it and become in balance and in harmony with it.
You did mention sort of the false matrix, if you were. You made reference to it in different words. Yeah. And obviously there's an agenda at play here. Yeah. How can we apply wisdom to exiting the matrix, so to speak, and making sure that we are returning to our organic template?
Yeah, great question. In order to do this, we have to become unified as people on this planet. All these divide and conquer tactics that the elites use to create this matrix of separation, separation is an illusion. And we have people thinking this color is better and that color is better and this information is better and this language is better than this language and this spirituality is better than this. That's just craziness. When we come to the point on this planet where we realize, we meaning the 99%ers of the world, when we realize that basically the world is ours, this is our planet that we've given away to 1%. There's less than 100 people who tell us what to eat, smell, think, taste, touch, hear, and how to love one another, how to even love ourselves. We have 8 billion people being controlled by less than 100 people when you really look at this thing. This is why these advanced beings, they're just watching and looking and waiting to say, you know what, we're not going to really truly fully intervene 100% until they grow up. We're in the infancy stages of wisdom and knowledge. And so in order to exit this matrix that they've put us into, we've got to unify. When we tear down these walls of this divide and conquer techniques and tactics and the illusion of the financial system that they've put on us and the labor systems and all these other matrices that exist, and we begin to love one another and unify, there's only one thing we need to do to exit the matrix. And it has nothing to do with rioting. We're not going to go to war against any militaries. We're not going to picket and run down the street crying. We're not going to do all this crazy stuff. We just have to stand up and say no. And when we stand up and say no to them, the game is over. No more mortgages, no more loans, no more debt, no more gas, no more food. We're going to have stocked up, or we'll have been already negotiating. We'll just stock up on stuff and we'll sit back for 3 or 4 weeks. 1 billion people stop for 3 or 4 weeks, just stop everything and shut down the entire planet and say, hey, now you negotiate with us because this is our planet and we're taking back control of this planet. We'll tell you guys what to do.
What is the single most important message from Thoth coming through you right now?
The single most important message is every single human being is going to go through darkness. It's a part of who we are. It's like a baby that is learning how to walk. And what is walking? Walking is a series of controlled falls. A baby reaches up for an edge of a table or an edge of a bed, it takes a step, falls down. Humanity falls down from time to time. And it looks like everything is going wrong and everything is being, destroyed and we can't get our act right. But then we lean up on the couch or the table again, we stand up again. We take another step and we take another step. Eventually, falling is a symbol of darkness, but then you get up. And when you get up and start learning how to take steps, learning how to control your fall, because that's what walking is, you then have the capability of walking towards the light. So the ultimate message is walking towards the light consistently. When you fall, don't let that get you down. Don't make it seem like the world is ending or everything is going wrong and we're doomed. It's not that. It's that falling is part of learning how to walk.
How can we stop humanity from self-destructing?
Well, that's a great question. The first thing we have to do is we have to, these systems that have been put in place to trick us into hating one another have to be broken and collapsed. And the systems that they use are these financial systems. They use the educational systems because that's where you can put the most propaganda, especially when a person is being brought up. And we have to realize that these dictators that start these wars, they don't themselves go to any war. These guys are sitting in $3,000 and $4,000 suits and like $10,000 suits behind desks, sending young kids to go attack and kill people halfway around the world that they don't even know who they are. And so at some point, we as a people have to stand up and say enough is enough. And we have to start teaching our kids that war is not the answer, that serving your country where it comes to a point where you're killing people, innocent women and children that you don't even know, and for not even what purpose, that the majority of these wars are created for profit. It's profiteering. And so we have to start teaching our kids early that that's not the way. We have to ingrain that into them early instead of letting the propaganda get to them that make them think that they're going to help create freedom for us and others when it really is all death and destruction.
Billy, what do you foresee for the future of humanity?
I see a great and a bright future, which is why I'm in this work. I don't see some people may want to call me an optimist, but I don't see it as optimistic. I see it as realist. I see that we have so much potential as a species, and I believe that light will always outdo the darkness. If you look at this room right now, it's lit up brightly, right? But I can't take out a tiny little dot of darkness and make this room go dim. This room is still going to be well lit. However, if I turn all the lights off in this room and I take out a lighted pen or my cell phone flashlight and turn it on, the darkness will flee from the light. So light has more power than darkness. And so as long as we focus on that and we keep spreading the light virus around, then everyone will catch it and this whole world will change. It's just a matter of time.